Welcome to 20 Minute Tabletop, a podcast sharing the love of all things tabletop gaming in bite-sized pieces. I'm your host, John Wiki, here today with my co-host, Stevie.
This episode, we're putting on our thinking caps and journeying to a land far, far away to solve some mysteries in a game called the Fairy Tale Files.
So, there's no real back of the box to turn to here, so instead we'll go to their site. The Fairy Tale Files are lighthearted murder mystery detective games inspired by iconic fairy tales. We bring you the delight of our favorite childhood stories with an adult twist. Join the Magical Mishaps Agency to solve the clues and find the killer.
Fairy Tale Files is from the Society of Curiosities, created by Yassine Merzouk and Michelle Rund-Bacon. They've been creating escape and mystery games since 2015. This was originally published as a Kickstarter and funded in under 1 hour. And now that we've played it, I can see why.
Absolutely. So let's talk about those first impressions.
So they have an interactive chat feature in this game that I think is really cool, and it responds well the majority of the time, but we'll talk more about that later. I like that you can make a free account to save your progress, so if for some reason you're not finished, it basically puts a bookmark in the chat so that you can pick up where you left off instead of starting all over again.
My first impression is it very much is an escape room mystery in an envelope. I love the combination of those physical elements and that messaging portal, that app you've talked about. Like, those combinations of the two things give it this really great feel. And I'd love to see the escape rooms that they design, because this is so cool.
So let's talk setup.
There really is no real setup. You just open the envelope, read what it has to say there, and you jump in. Make sure you read this first envelope so that you know what you can and cannot look at the start. It really walks through everything you need to do and when to open which pieces at the right time. So it's usually you start with 3 to 5 items plus the interactive chat to get going.
Some of the things that you start with are very similar each time, for like example, the suspects. And some things are very different each time, and that's what I think makes it interesting.
So the mechanics of this, it's labeled as being 14 plus with a medium difficulty. As we said, you open up, you read about what happened, you follow the instructions, you go through the clues. They're going to be different types of things, different physicals. There's clues everywhere. They're not always immediately apparent. Or puzzles, might be hidden in plain sight and you don't really realize it, or then you need to use the other pieces to solve the bigger puzzles, which are really fun. My favorite thing was just to read all of the newspaper.
Yeah, the newspaper was really well done. And then, as we mentioned before, the chat feature is called the Magic Mirror. And this messaging portal is a way for you to ask questions, get help, or receive directions of what to do next. And this is also how you solve the mystery.
Let's jump into the enjoyment of the game.
For sure. I think this was a really cool, unique experience. Having played some other large brand escape room in a box type things, this was quite different. And I found it really enjoyable because with the Magic Mirror chat feature, and then, like you said, the newspaper and some of the other physical elements, it really sets itself apart from some of the escape room in a box type games that you see, at your big box store.
So let's talk about those physical at-home pieces you get to go with those digital deeper resources. As we already talked about, my favorite is the fake newspaper with all sorts of articles about whatever's going on at the time related to the case and then related to just the world as a whole.
The newspapers also have some really funny ads that are related in general to like the fairy tales that you're covering. Without giving too much away, in the Sweet Shop mystery, there's Hansel and Gretel references as well as some Muffin Man and Gingerbread Man type call-outs in there too.
Yeah, and then you get images of the scenes. So whenever you go to a location, some of them have scenes. So the scene of the crime, and you're looking around for those clues in there. And then those clues, you'll basically feed back to the magic mirror to kind of get your feedback on what you're finding and what that importance might mean. But it's really like looking through to see what's out of place, what's interesting in there, and everything that goes along with just the location. It's so detailed. It's just really, really cool and really draws you in.
Another physical item you get are the suspect cards, and there's 3 or 4 of those. And on the front, they have a portrait and the suspect's name, and the portraits are made to look hand-drawn, so that they look like they popped right out of a storybook. And then on the back, they give some information about the character, including things like their age, their quote about whatever the crime was. It gives some details, and those are also things that come into play. So you want to make sure you read your suspect cards when you are starting this mystery.
And then sometimes as you find things, you get a physical clue to go with the things that you found. Of, oh, you found this scrap of paper. And then you get the physical scrap of paper that might not have all the words on it. You can only see part of it because it was torn or anything along those lines. But you get those physical clue items to go with it.
Like we said, they have more than one of these. So I thought once I solved the first, the second would be similar in structure, but it was surprisingly different in terms of how the puzzles were solved. Without giving too much away, the complexity stays the same without the type of puzzle necessarily repeating itself. So it's not always going to be, oh, it's a secret code, translate to the letters. They're all very different in each mystery. And I really appreciated that as someone who does a lot of puzzles and looks for patterns like that. I couldn't necessarily apply the pattern from the first mystery to the second mystery.
Yeah, that is really cool. I had a lot of fun with this. I love those physical nature of the game because I love escape rooms. So this is a good way to kind of do it at home in a way where you can look through all these pieces and find that stuff. And the app was great because that meant no one had to run the game. Being the person at home is often the GM of our games when we want to play stuff. It's nice that this doesn't require anybody to be that person. Everyone gets to participate together. You can solve it together. You don't need to have someone who's the one who's willing to read everything to then give you the clues that, yes, you found the right clue there. No, that's not important. You don't have to do that. You can all play together, all try to solve it together with just the app to let you know there. And it was surprisingly intuitive in being able to give answers and words to it and have it, know what you meant and that you were on the right path or not. It wasn't like I didn't really feel like it misunderstood us when we were trying to point out things from the scenes or pick clues. Like it was pretty spot on.
Oh, for sure. And let's talk about that chat feature a little more. So, when you open the read this first, it gives you the website and tells you where to go. It tells you what to select, and you go in, you type certain things, and it gives you sort of like an introduction in that chat bot. And, we've talked about the location cards, the newspapers, the suspect cards, all the physical stuff. What the chatbot does, it is almost like your GM for this. It says, hey, look at this. What do you notice? And you reply, like you said, whether it's a sentence or the keywords, it seems to key off of certain words. And it says, okay, well, then also look at this information to start showing you where things are connected. And kind of after the first puzzle, you start getting the hang of it on your own. But the chatbot is nice because it prompts you to know what you're looking for. And there have been times where when we're playing, we'll notice something, but it's not immediately relevant, so we'll kind of file it away because that's not what the magic mirror is looking for. Magic mirror is looking for something else entirely, and 99 times out of 100, the thing that we noticed that was interesting or thought-provoking ended up being something later that the chatbot's like, "Okay, now go look at this because you needed a different piece of information first."
The going between locations part is always interesting because you have that freedom to move between. And sometimes you have the freedom to go where you want to. And sometimes you'll be like, well, you go to this location. Oh, well, so and so's not home. So you can't really get in there and look in there now. And it kind of helps direct you to sometimes you need to go certain ways first to get the information you need. And sometimes you can go where you want to. But you have that freedom to try it. And you don't have to know that, oh, yeah, this is a problem. It redirects you lightly to know that let's go to the other location first. And then we'll come back here later.
Right. And speaking of locations, the chatbot also serves up a map for you that you do use throughout each mystery. And it's specific to the mystery you're solving as to what locations you can select. I will say to make sure that you spell them correctly because when one of the kids was doing the typing, some of the letters got swapped around, and the magic mirror is like, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you try? Where should we go next? Be a little meticulous when you're spelling locations that you want to go to. But like you said, it'll gently redirect you if it's something that is sequential, that needs to be sequential versus something that can run concurrently. So like you can try this place or this place and it doesn't matter which one you do first versus like you said that gentle redirection where no you really need to go to this place first because you are missing information that you don't know you're missing. And let me gently redirect you by saying, "Oh, no one's home," or, you go there and the place is locked up, whatever.
And I love the way they built the world around the fairy tales that you know and all the different stories that go along with that. You have those same characters in those new ways. I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for reimagining of things in new ways and, having elements, stuff that you know, but their own little twist on it. If you're going to have mysteries in there, you're going to have things that aren't necessarily how the story went. It's not the movie but it's fun having all those little call outs to things in there and seeing the ways they do this, hook other things in as if these are all in one world all together when they were normally, different stories.
Yeah, I definitely think that uniqueness can be commended because this is totally a twist on sort of the Hans Christian Andersen realm of fairy tales, like we said earlier, with call outs to related tales. Let's talk length of play.
It calls out a range of 45 to 90 minutes, ranging from expert sleuths to novice detectives. That feels about right for us. I don't know exactly how long it took us. It did take us quite a while to work through it with the kids, but it was great because they were able to take part. They wouldn't have been able to solve these on their own, but together as a family, we were able to do this, and they were able to pick things out.
Right. I think after we did the first one, we were averaging somewhere around an hour to like hour 15 to get them solved. Now, granted, we've had these for a while. The first time we played, the kids were 7 and 10. They're 8 and 11 now. And they definitely got some of the puzzles, but again, they have a range of experience with, escape room in a box and with going to physical escape rooms. So over time, they've learned what sort of things will clue you in or key you into information that you're going to need. But you really can play with kids under 14. I would recommend it be ones that like puzzles and don't mind not physically being in the escape room and not having things to physically manipulate. That would maybe be the only drawback, is if you have a one who likes to solve puzzles that they can touch. That would be the only downside here. But honestly, I don't see why they couldn't take part.
And it's great because you can take it at your own pace too. You can step away if you're getting blocked, if everyone's getting antsy. You can just bookmark it in the chat app and come back to it. So you can take it at your own leisurely pace or as fast as you want to try and go through it. So it's nice having this at-home experience where you can do it in your way and solve those mysteries. And it's great because you can take that time with the kids and let them work through it and help them along and let them do it. Or as adults, you can do it competitively. It's a lot of fun solving those mysteries. It's really cool when you figure out oh, this is the key to that image. This is how we're going to solve that puzzle. This is what's weird about that. And because they differ from mystery to mystery, it's not the same sort of thing. Like, even if you had multiple puzzles where you got to get a word, the way you're finding that word is not going to be anywhere near the same. So it's really interesting from that aspect.
I totally agree. And if you're the kind of person who is not sure if your kids would like a physical escape room, this is a great way to try out that style of puzzle solving. I don't know where y'all live, but down here in Orlando, escape rooms are expensive. So it's a great way to try out that style of puzzle solving for a lot lower cost, but getting a really great quality product. Like, I cannot overemphasize how well done these were.
And they offer 4 different mysteries. So there's the Curious Case of the Poisoned Apples, the Cinderella Murders, Who Framed Mr. Wolf, and Sweet Witch Inferno.
And of those, the only one we haven't played is Who Framed Mr. Wolf, and I think that's because it came out after we got the first three.
I don't know, reading through this, I realized I didn't play Sweet Witch Inferno. Somebody must have played that without me.
The kids and I played it. What's also cool is that Society of Curiosities also has a quarterly mystery subscription and some games that can be played completely online, such as their Winchester Mystery House themed game. And I think that's really neat because, your quarterly subscription will send you a new puzzle once a quarter, but the online ones would definitely be interesting to check out because I'd like to see how they've done them. That's definitely kind of next on my list from them, is doing one of their online escape room mysteries.
I am all for getting some more of their stuff. Like I said, how great these are. I want to see their real in-person escape rooms. I want to do more of their other content. If that's one we don't have, I want to go buy Mr. Wolf now.
Yeah, I wish their physical escape rooms were not in Canada because that's really, really far from Florida. And, I would love to go in person to see what they can do in a physical room if this is what their paper-based game is like. I mean, I can't imagine how awesome their physical rooms would be.
I love their stuff. You can check it out on societyofcuriosities.com and fairytalefiles.com, which we'll link both of those in the show notes as well. So let's talk about those final impressions. I loved it. I'm excited to play the other mysteries that we haven't yet and try more of them. I would love to see more in this series. I'd love to see them add more fairy tale mysteries to go along with this. And interested in a lot more from these creators, as I mentioned.
I thought it was a really fun and unique game. I definitely would love to see more from them. And like I said earlier, I really want to try out some of their online only options to see how they're different from the paper based. But I imagine there's actually probably more you can do given the capabilities of different programs that you can run for online escape rooms.
I'm your host, John Wiki, and you can find me on Twitter as John_Wiki. That's Wickee.
And I'm Stevie. You can find me on social media at Stevies_games.
20 Minute Tabletop is a Morecore Studios production. Theme song by Arthur Rowan, Morecore art by Sita Duncan. Do you want more tabletop gaming fun? Subscribe to 20 Minute Tabletop on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. Find out more on our website, 20mintabletop.com. That's the numbers 20mintabletop.com. Or connect with us on Twitter and Instagram at 20mintabletop. That's at 20mintabletop. Thank you, and roll with fortune.
Do 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 do.